Today, we become legends.
Hey, my name's Inter, and welcome back to the channel for the Open Beta 4 update notes. This is going to be going live on Monday, assuming everything goes as planned. And this is, of course, the Artemis patch. We've already learned a good bit about it from various Titan talks throughout the week and stuff like that, but we got full patch notes to go over, so without further ado, let's just jump right in. So, of course, Artemis is going to be the launch god of this update, and then Awilix is going to be launching 1 week in, as usual. There's also a fresh lineup of cross-gen and classic skins making their way into the store. Foxy Amaterasu, Baron Frostchild Ymir, La Roca Hercules, Summerfun Medusa, Hellforge Thor, Lil by Sobek, and Nanomancer Baron Samdi. The Bossman Danzaburo skin also arrives for a Divine Legacy unlock for those that earned it in Smite 1. Thor is also receiving his aspect in this patch, allowing players to alter the God of Thunder's gameplay for a truly unique experience. If you haven't played him in a while, it might be time to put him back into rotation. This is going to be a sort of like tanky, soul in, maybe even support-based aspect for Thor. Looking ahead, Awilix is set to arrive on March 3rd, week 1 of the patch, or week 2 of the patch, I guess, bringing her dynamic combat style to the roster. Dive into the details below to learn about these major additions, alongside the extensive balance changes, quality of life improvements, and bug fixes that round out this update. So yeah, they did say they had a new lead on patch notes development. I think it's pretty cool. They've got like a little summary at the top, essentially, of what everything that's going to be coming in the update. But of course, we'll dive into the full details here. I'm very curious. So Artemis is going to be live with this update. I have already got videos fully showcasing them in-game on the channel for Artemis and Awilix. If you're curious, I'll link those down below. So we'll just go over briefly here. She's going to be mostly the same, but does have some new mechanics as well as an aspect. So a new feature on her passive is that she is able to detect nearby enemy gods in stealth grass. I believe they said on Titan Talk this is going to be within basic attack range, so pretty far, to be honest. If you stood in the middle of duo lane, you'll definitely be able to see enemies in that patch of stealth grass that sits in the duo lane and in the side patch of stealth grass as well. It's going to be pretty useful, you know, stop her getting ambushed and stuff like that. The main +1 for Artemis coming over to Smite 2, though, is that while the buff on your 2 is active, you get a charge each time you hit an enemy god with a basic attack. After 4 charges, they're consumed and extend the buff duration by 3 seconds. And yes, this can go as much as you want. This can go infinite. As long as you are continually hitting 4 basic attacks within 3 seconds, you will infinitely have the steroid active. Obviously, that's an ideal situation, and you might be missing basic attacks or weaving in and out of range, trying to poke and stuff like that. You're probably not going to go infinite with this all too much, but the more attack speed you have, the easier it is to go infinite, the more forgiving it is. You know, you can miss a couple of basic attacks if you're at like 3.0 attack speed and still be able to extend this buff duration pretty substantially. And it could probably get pretty crazy, dude. It could probably get pretty crazy. We've tried her out with PTS already. She's a ton of fun, so that's the main +1 for Artemis in this update. She's also going to be launching with an aspect, though, which is that her 1, Transgressor's Fate, no longer roots and cripples gods, but can now target minions or be triggered by minions. Triggered traps will also now heal Artemis, and they deal damage to enemies in a larger area. So it's about the size of her 3, the area of these traps, and you can now use them for wave clear. So if you're going for more like an ability-based Artemis build, they can trigger on minions, so you can just put these down. You know, you can even preemptively put them down and just clear the wave. You know, maybe you could proxy with this or something, just put down like 3 traps behind their tower and just kill the wave or something. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Leads a bit more into like an ability-based, maybe a mid-lane Artemis or something like that. You could probably even jungle with it, because I believe they also do trigger on jungle camps. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting aspect. I don't know if it'll be any good, especially not in the ADC role, but maybe as a mid lane or something with a more ability-based build, it could be good. Awilix is going to be launching March 3rd as well. She's going to be the second god of the patch, releasing week 2, and she has some pretty interesting changes as well. So a little new thing that she's getting is if you engage with the leap from Suku to trigger your passive, where you damage them first out of combat, instead of being 4-second buff duration, it's going to be 6-second buff duration if you directly damage them from summon Suku leap. Her 3, Moonlight Charge, can now be fired while riding Suku, and it will not dismount you, so you can kind of like just walk around poking with this while staying mobile on Suku, staying able to juke stuff and things like that. And you can just fish for the knockup. If you see that it connects, it's very easy to right-click cancel and ult and stuff like that, so you can just kind of like fish for knockups while maintaining your mobility on Suku, not triggering the mana to recast Suku every time. And an extra +1 for Awilix on her ultimate is that while Gravity Surge is active, the buff, the steroid, is active, you now get the maximum benefit of Feather Step regardless of the next attack in your progression. So if you like throw out a knock-up and you ult someone too, you don't have to basically attack them twice to get the full Feather Step value. You can just Feather Step immediately, which is going to up her burst damage in general. You know, you're not going to need quite as much time after you ult someone to fully burst them down. You could just 3, ult 2 immediately if that's going to be enough damage. Awilix will not be launching with an aspect, though. She might get one later down the line. And it seems like that's how they're going to be going forward with updates. They did mention on a couple of Titan talks that like they're going to roll back a little bit on making sure every god launches with an aspect. It seems like maybe going forward they're going to do 1 god launches with an aspect and 1 doesn't. These are all the new skins that we just discussed earlier. You know, there are cross-gen ones, classic ones, and Divine Legacy as a Bossman Danzaburo. The updated face models for Aphrodite, Achilles, and Phantom Seas Poseidon are going to make it into this update. So those of you that rightfully have been complaining about that the faces look terrible on some of these gods, the updated faces should be shipping with this update. The assault mode has changed. Check out the details in the gameplay section. So some assault changes that we'll check out in a bit. Thor's aspect is also going to be launching in this patch. Baron's aspect will not. They were originally planning for Baron's aspect to be in this update, but they've had some issues with bugs and balance and stuff like that with Baron's aspect, so it's going to be delayed until OB5. But Thor's is going to be launching with this update, and Thunderstruck is always active in this aspect, which is the passive, you know, the extra lightning that you get every time you use your 3 or your ultimate. That's just going to be always active now, so you always got like AoE chain damage, like a Disaspo style on all of your abilities and basic attacks. And triggering it 3 times on a god will heal Thor and slow and tremble that god as well. Your passive provides protections for each nearby enemy instead of strength, and Mjolnir's Attunement no longer deals the bonus return damage, so you won't get double damage on the return swing of the hammer. You will still get regular damage. So basically, instead of it doing 3 times ability damage with the double tap, it will just do 2 times instead. And Tectonic Rift also has no damage scaling with the aspect on. Chests are being added in this update along with the new store page as well. There's going to be a classic skin chest, chaos chest as well, which has a dark, fiery, and supernatural skins, and these are going to be like cross-gen and use my 2 skins. The classic skin chest is obviously classic skins will be rollable for legacy gems only. And this is a new store UI as well that they're shipping in this update, which I think is really cool. Bring a little bit more attention to the fact that there are some skins in the game now that you can buy. It's going to be showing, you know, new featured skins for the update and stuff like that, and this is where you access chests, which is really cool. Scoreboard QOL that allows players to read each god's abilities by selecting their portrait. This is something that new players have been requesting a lot, actually. Obviously, if you're an experienced Smite veteran, you're not really going to need this too much, but it's going to be really useful for new players, you know, being able to be like, oh, this guy just completely destroyed me. How on earth did he do that? Okay, I can read his abilities. That will be really useful, I think, so that's nice for new players to be included in this update. God page multi-ability display toggling has been added. Oh, this is for stuff like Mordred's Ultimate, you know, abilities that can change. So for like your Mordred's 1, Mordred's Ultimate, that kind of stuff, you can view both of them by, I assume, selecting these little diamonds. So that's pretty cool as well. Nice bit of quality of life. Jump stamps can now be seen on raised pedestals on the god page as well, which is good. For gameplay, the Titan's basic attack cleave no longer hits Minotaurs, which is the big super minions of the wave, and they have also reduced damage versus Minotaurs coefficient by 30%. So they're no longer going to cleave the Minotaurs, and if they are attacking the Minotaurs, they're going to be dealing less damage, I assume. Minotaurs will now try to get close and use melee attacks against enemy titans. Arena, the blue buff now grants plus 5 mana per second and plus 20 CDR in this mode. Assault has a new feature. This is what they were talking about earlier, I assume. The team bench. Whenever a player rerolls, their previously owned god is placed onto the team bench. Teammates can freely swap their current god with a god on the bench. You will not be able to swap to gods you don't own. You can, however, swap back to any gods you've rolled. So yeah, this is really good. They said they were going to add this, you know, maybe a month or 2 back or something like that. They said they were going to work on it. And this is really nice, you know, if your idiot teammate rerolls the healer, you can take it. If someone just rerolls before, you can ask them if you want that god. You know, if someone gets your maid or whatever, and they just instantly reroll it without really asking if anyone wants it. You can just take that straight from the team bench, which I think is a really cool idea. Respawn timers have also been reduced a little bit. Instead of 3 times your XP level, it's now going to be 2.5 times your XP level. So basically, respawns at Assault are going to be a little bit shorter, which is great in my opinion. I played a lot of Assault in Smite 2. I played a lot of Assault in Smite 1 as well. It's my main casual mode. And it's definitely something I've noticed that respawn timers get too long too quickly in that mode. You know, sometimes at like 10 minutes you get team wiped and you have like 40-second respawn timers and the game just ends because you can't really get back in to defend. They have also pushed up the overtime penalty start time from 30 minutes to 10 minutes. Adds plus 1 second to respawn timer per minute. Okay, so it seems like they've reduced respawn timers overall, but they pushed up the overtime penalty basically, so it starts at 10 minutes instead of 30 minutes. So they've sort of like increased respawn timers but also decreased them in a way as well. We'll see how this shakes out. Jump stamps are no longer visible through the fog of war as well, which is definitely good. That could reveal you if you're like moving towards the jungle camp and jumping. For Conquest, player XP kill rewards. The base reward for a player kill has been increased from 50 to 130. That is absolutely massive. Kills will actually be worth a little bit now. The inferior multiplier has been increased from 0.1 to 0.2, and the superior multiplier has been decreased from 0.25 to 0.2. So I assume what this means is players that are behind, players that are ahead. So yeah, the base reward has been increased, the reward for killing players that are behind has been increased, but the reward for killing players that are ahead has been decreased. So basically, less anti-snowballing and more snowballing being added in terms of kills, which I think is good. The game is really farm-focused right now. You know, all the farm that's available on the map, kills are basically not worth going for a lot of the time. They're obviously worth going for. If you get a kill, it's good. You know, you can deny them farm and stuff like that. But kills really weren't worth overall that much. You know, you'd often just be better like farming your waves and camps efficiently rather than trying to fight and go for those kills. So it's definitely good to incentivize those in my opinion. And yeah, this inferior and superior multiplier stuff, you're going to get punished a little bit less if you get ahead and then get shut down, and you're going to get punished a little bit less for killing players that are already behind. Because kind of right now, as it is, you know, if a player's down like 04 or 05 or something like that, they're literally worth it like a minion. It's absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, overall good changes there. I think that will be rewarding players for kills much better, which I think is good. Runic Bomb, players can now use the Runic Bomb to destroy enemy base doors. Okay, is that permanent? I would assume it's permanent. Maybe it's temporary, you know, maybe it destroys them for like 3 minutes or whatever. They didn't specify a time here though, so it makes me think maybe it's permanent. That's interesting though. This is really cool. This is like some random out of left field change that no one asked for, but I think it's really cool. It's kind of like, you know, Fire Giant Obsidian Dagger. Like, who asked for that? But it's really sick in my opinion. This is another cool change like that they're just cooking with in my opinion. So now it's actually a little bit of a trade-off. You know, do you want to bomb the Phoenix, or do you want to make maybe a longer play for the long game and bomb their base doors, so that when next time you siege, you're going to have a little bit more space available, because you can just push straight through those base doors and not have to worry about it, and sort of like open up that area between the Phoenixes for play and stuff like that. I think this is really cool. Obsidian Dagger, they have increased the duration of the damage buff from 6 to 9 seconds when used without reviving. This is fine. It'll incentivize people, I guess, to use it a little bit more for the steroid. I think they might still need to do more with this, just because the revive effect is so incredibly powerful that there's almost never a case where you want to try and at least go for the revive. But at some point, if they keep making this better, damage dealers especially might not want to even go for the revive, because it's already quite hard with how bursty the game is for a damage dealer to get the revive off. Usually you throw the dagger on tanks if you're on a coordinated team, because they can like infinite tank Phoenixes with it, and they have a more forgiving window to be able to use it. But if they keep buffing up the damage multiplier for this and stuff like that, maybe damage dealers will want to actually use it for that purpose a little bit more. So I think this is good. Tower bounties have been removed from tier 2 towers entirely, but they have increased the gold reward from the regular bounties by double, and same thing for the final bounty. Interesting. I kind of like this. Tier 2 towers, this is probably fine in my opinion, because a lot of the time, you know, these tower bounties are something you're pushing for in the laning phase to get a lead via your pressure in the lane. And a lot of the time, if you're trying to like push down tier 2 towers, a lot of the time the laning phase is over at that point, unless you're winning insanely hard and you can just push tier 2 towers during the laning phase for free. So yeah, this won't really matter all too much, because oftentimes when it's being, you know, pushed by like a whole team of a tier 2 tower, the rewards are worth barely anything because it's split between everyone that's there. But then the tier 1 tower is going to be giving significantly more, so it's going to be much more valuable to actually shove down your tower. Now, I think this is good. Tower bounties have been an interesting addition. I like them overall. But when they initially released, they were ridiculously too strong. I think these were maybe at like 50 and 150, or maybe even more than that. When they initially released, they were way too strong. But then they completely gutted them to where they're worth like a minion, and it's just like, well, okay, why would I bother pushing the tower when I can go take their back camps, or like their blue buff, or the totem, or the side gold camp that's just worth way more? Why would I bother really pushing down their tower when they're worth so little? So I think buffing them up is good, and I think removing them from tier 2s makes sense as well. I think it's a really good change. Lane minions, they have increased the damage versus towers. Melee attack scaling coefficient versus towers from 0.4 to 0.8, and range from 0.4 to 0.6. So minions are going to be doing a little bit more damage to towers now. If you're letting those under, you'll take a little bit more damage and maybe get more tower bounties. Fire minions have basically got the same change as well. A little bit less extreme on fire minions, but yeah, basically the same change. All structures, they have reduced the attack scaling coefficient versus minions from 1.0 to 0.6. This effectively makes regular minions able to tank 1 extra tower shot on average. Interesting. They've also reduced the attack scaling coefficient versus siege minotaurs from 1.0 to 0.7. So yeah, minions will be able to tank towers more. They will deal more damage. There's also more rewards for tower bounties. So all of this is basically incentivizing playing aggressive, pushing your lead, shoving down enemy towers more effectively rather than just going to farm camps always, which is kind of what you do right now. So it gives an interesting trade-off of like, do I want to go for like a blue invade or secure the totem or whatever, or do I want to kind of shove down this tower, you know, get some pressure, open up the map a little bit, get some rewards from tower bounties, that kind of stuff. I think this is all really good stuff in my opinion. They've also adjusted the stats of towers as well. So decreased max health, magical protection, physical power, and penetration from 30% to 10%, damn. And very similar changes to tier 2 towers and phoenixes. The penetration is the main thing here. But also the protections are, especially on the Phoenix, on the towers they've done it a little bit less, but on the Phoenix they have absolutely gutted the protections of Phoenixes, so you're going to be able to shred them down much easier now. But yeah, the penetration is the biggest thing here probably for these ones, you know, especially on tier 1 towers, percent pen going from 30% to 10%, you're going to be able to dive towers much more easily now and tank them up much more easily, especially in the early game. But even towards the late game, you know, them losing that much percent pen is going to make it so tanks can kind of run under towers for a significantly longer amount of time. Which again, I think is good. It rewards aggressive play. It stops people camping under their tower and just using it to defend them when they should be there to defend it. That's a fine okay quote from Twitter that I saw earlier this week. But he's absolutely right. You know, you are there to defend your tower. Your tower is not there to defend you. They shouldn't just be completely destroying you all stages of the game. This will have the most impact on solo lane, obviously, especially with the tier 1 change, because percent pen is going to be most valuable for tanky solo laners that will be able to dive towers much more freely. But yeah, all of this stuff is great, man. All of this stuff is great. I think this is fixing some big problems in Conquest. I haven't really been asking for this. I don't know if other people have been asking for this, but these are all just great changes in my opinion. I love this. Phoenixes, they've also decreased the regen, and on respawn, they have increased the initial health on respawn from 20% to 50%, but they've removed the minus 50% max health penalty on respawn. So Phoenixes will no longer continually get weaker. They can respawn and get back to their full HP, but they will also respawn on more HP, but they've decreased the regen a little bit as well. Oh, I missed this actually. They've also added a damage reduction effect when the Phoenix takes basic attack damage. A single hit of damage from a basic attack after mitigations is reduced if the damage is greater than 2.5% of the Phoenix's max health. The reduction starts at 0% when the incoming damage is equal to 2.5 and increases as incoming damage rises. Okay. So if you're dealing absolutely massive basic attack damage to a Phoenix, it's going to be dealing a little bit less. But if you're dealing repeated hits from, like, you know, your whole team piling on it, it's going to be reduced a little bit less. Okay, moving into God Balance for OB4 though. First up, Soul Aspect is getting a little bit of a nerf. They have decreased the ability damage increase from 7.5% to 6%. They recently nerfed the intelligence scaling on this as well, but, you know, it was still incredibly strong. She's still getting banned a lot. She's still seeing very good win rates and pick rates. Izanami is getting a nerf, interestingly. They have decreased the physical penetration per stack from 0.4 to 0.3, so 20% to 15% of max stacks of your passive, and they have also increased the cooldown of Fade Away from 15. It's now 17 down to 15. Interesting. I don't think Izanami is particularly strong, in my opinion. Maybe they've got some data that's saying she's really strong. I know she's a god that kind of destroys low-level play a lot, so maybe this is why they're putting out that nerf. You know, maybe she's seeing really, really high win rates and stuff like that in sort of low to mid-level play. Cupid getting some nerfs as well. Heart Bomb, they have decreased the strength scaling on the initial hit and explosion from 40 down to 30, so that's a 20% nerf in total, pretty big. That is on the aspect of love specifically, so regular Cupid not going to be affected, but with the aspect, you're going to be doing a little bit less damage. Ula getting some nerfs, finally. I feel like this guy's escaped nerfs for far too long, dude. He's not been like the absolute best god in the game or anything, but he's been really strong for a long amount of time and has kind of escaped nerfs. They have decreased the buff duration on his 2 in both stances by 1 second, and the axe movement speed from 10 up to 20 is now 8 down to 16. So some relatively small nerfs for Ula, to be honest, but he does need some. Aladdin getting more nerfs. Genie's Lamp, they have decreased the percent base stats from other items from 2% to 1%, and per level from 0.5 to 0.4. So this goes from 12 to 9%. Man, it's crazy to think this was 70% free stats, man. Honestly, I don't think he needs this at all, man. This should just not even exist, but I guess 12 down to 9% is a good nerf. In my opinion, this should be 5 or 3% or something like that. It should be a small little bonus that you get. It's not just straight up getting like 10% more stats than everyone else for absolutely free, especially when he already has so much in his kit already, and the wishes and stuff like that. Hercules getting some base damage nerfs on Driving Strike and Earthbreaker by 10, all ranks on both of these abilities. This makes sense. Hercules is running the jungle right now, arguably the best jungler in the game. Definitely up there with like Fenrir and Aladdin, Hunbats as well. He's definitely up there with the top junglers. He's doing really well at the moment as a jungler, so taking some base damage off is going to be good. Maybe some scaling could have been taken off of these as well. I think Driving Strike scaling is very high, like 95% or something. They could maybe take that down to 85 to hit his jungle specifically. Aphrodite finally getting some maybe nerfs. This has a shift here. Kiss, they have decreased the jealousy damage increase from 5 to 15. It's now 6 to 10, so relatively a big nerf on that overall. You know, it's going to be better at rank 1, but from every other rank onwards, it's a nerf. Back off, they have decreased the slow by 5%, and Lovebirds, they have increased the int scaling per tick on the damage over time from 15 to 17.5. So yeah, nerfing Afro support mainly and buffing up a little bit of int-based Afro mid in terms of giving it a bit more damage on the 3. Odin getting some buffs. He has languished for a while. I don't think he's as bad as people say he is, but he has been pretty bad for a while. They have increased the base damage on Lunge by 20 as you go through the ranks, not at rank 1. Gunya's Smite, they have increased the pulse damage by 5 up to 25 based on rank, and Ring of Spears, they have decreased the cooldown from 100 down to 90. It's now, 110 down to 90. It's now 100 down to 80. 80 seconds is pretty crazy for this kind of ability in the late game. You know, tank builds, CDR is relatively available in those kind of builds, so you can get this down to probably like 40 seconds in the late game, which is kind of crazy for a ring. Bacchus getting some buffs. On Shug, they have increased the heal from 0 to 80. It's now 0 to 120, so a pretty big buff on the heal there. And Belch of the Gods, the damage per tick has been increased by 5 at all ranks, so 20 damage increase total. Susano getting some buffs as well. I do think he needs them. He's been languishing for a while compared to a lot of other strength-based junglers that have just been doing a lot better. They have decreased the cooldown of Wind Siphon and Jetstream both by 1 second. Typhoon, they have increased the max damage of the Typhoon from 210 to 450. It's now 220 to 480. And also the strength scaling by 5% as well. I think these are good. I don't think Susano needs any too crazy buffs. We don't want Susano just being the best god in the game anymore. But I think this is fine. It's a specific issue as well that Susano's cooldowns are super long in the early game before he gets like points in his abilities and stuff. So decreasing these is going to be good, I think. Cernados getting a buff. Wild Hunt, they have increased the strength scaling by 15%. Again, they are trying to shift Cernados more towards, you know, strength base. I mean, he already is a strength base. God, they've pretty much given up on the in-scaling on Cernados, I swear. But yeah, they're giving him a little bit more damage there for a traditional Hunter Cernados build. And finally, Pele getting some buffs as well. They have decreased the cooldown of Eruption by 1 second, and the slow on Volcanic Lightning now scales less aggressively, so you get a bit more at the base ranks of the ability, but same at max rank. Moving into items though, Magi's Cloak is new in this update. It's coming over from Smite 1. It has pretty damn attractive base stats, I will say. 30 and 40 on the protections, 10 cooldown rate, and then of course that same passive that protects you from a single hard crowd control every 60 seconds and makes you immune when you are hit by one. This is going to be really good, I think. A lot of damage dealers are going to want this. Even some tanks might want this. The stats are very attractive for tanks, even at this price point. It's not too terrible in terms of stats, considering how powerful the passive is. And of course, as we all know, in the one relic system, you know, CC is very prevalent in Smite 2. Where if you don't want to go beads, or you know, you don't want to go the active beads item or whatever, you can maybe grab this. Nimble Ring is also new, taking the Nimble Bancroft's Talon passive from Smite 1. So 45 intelligence, 20% attack speed, 15% lifesteal for 2750, so it is a relatively expensive item. But for every 30 intelligence you have, you gain 2 basic attack damage and 2% attack speed, and this doesn't appear to have a cap like Smite 1 Nimble Bancroft's did, 20 stacks. So this could get pretty crazy in some very high intelligence builds. You know, maybe if you're like a Zeus or a Sol or a Poseidon, just building a standard int-based ability mid build, you get up to like, you know, 700, 800, 900, 1000 intelligence. You could just be getting a lot of free stats from this and just sorting your entire attack speed in one item pretty much. I think this could be a pretty good item on like Aspect Sol, Zeus, Poseidon, does kind of like attack speed. Like, not attack speed mages, but gods that are building for ability base, but like attack speed as well. Bancroft's Talon is also coming as well, so 40 intelligence, 150 mana, 2 mana regen, 15% lifesteal, and you get additional intelligence and lifesteal scaling from missing health that caps at 60 int and 10% lifesteal at 40% health. Apparently this has already been nerfed from internal testing. That's what they said on the Titan Talk. Apparently it was way too strong. Maybe it still will be. It probably is going to be a pretty good item, I think. You know, especially for those gods like Anubis and Hades, lifesteal abusers, those kind of gods. Typhon's Fang as well. This is another reason why Bancroft might be pretty strong, because Typhon's Fang is also getting its passive from Smite 1 added back to it. So healing obtained from lifesteal is increased by 10%, and your intelligence is increased by 1.75x the amount of lifesteal you have. Soul Reaver is getting another nerf. They have decreased the percent health damage on the base from 1% to 0.5. They've already nerfed the int scaling on this in a hotfix, but they've also nerfed the base amount now as well. Soul Reaver is incredibly strong, definitely deserved. Lifebinder getting a nerf, increased cooldown from 15 seconds to 20 seconds, and remove the kill and assist clause. It might need more than this, to be honest. Maybe like a base stats nerf, or maybe a nerf to the amount that is like scaling per level or something like that, with the heal and shield and damage and stuff like that. It's just a ridiculously good item for like trading for like supports, some solo laners, some mid laners even. But yeah, increasing the cooldown on it is a good start. It might need more though. Olmec Blue, some random tier 2 item. They've decreased the health regen from 3 to 2. Totem of Death, they have decreased the percent pen per stack. Same thing with Executioner from 7.5 to 6. So it's now going to be 24% at back stacks instead of 30. I think this is good. These items are just really strong, especially considering the base stats are quite attractive on them. But it looks like they're hitting percent pen across the board in a lot of these balance changes, actually. So Obsidian Shard and Titan's Bane also getting nerfed from 20% pen down to 15. Rod of Zahuti getting nerfed from 10 down to 5. There might be others down here as well, but Heartseeker has gone up in cost from 2850 to 3000. Heartseeker should just get a nerf to the amount the strength scaling affects the max health damage, in my opinion. I don't think increasing the cost is going to fix that, but it is good. You know, Heartseeker is too strong. I'll take a nerf for it. It's good. Genji's Guard, they have decreased the cooldown of the passive trigger from 45 seconds to 30. Warrior's Axe, they have increased the strength by 5. Sundering Axe, the heal by 25. Bumper's Cudgel getting some nerfs. They have decreased the true damage on after casting an ability trigger from 20 to 10. This is a tier 1. It was just really efficient for trading in the early game. Leather Cowl, 5 more strength. Reaper, 5 more strength. Divine Ruin increased the anti-heal from 4 seconds to 6 seconds. Same thing on Brawler's Ruin. Same thing on Linnaean Bow. And also anti-shield has been added to Linnaean Bow, so enemies hit by this have their health shields reduced by 50%. And they have also increased the range so it matches the currently used targeter. And Pharaoh's Curse is also having anti-shield added to it as well, which is good. I think getting some anti-shield in the game is nice, you know, with some of these really strong shields going around. But yeah, overall, good item balance, I think. I think most of these changes are good. There are some items where they definitely haven't gone far enough, you know, like Heartseeker just needs the strength scaling nerfed, in my opinion. Lifebinder grinder's probably going to need more than this. But I really like that they're nerfing percent pen. I think this is good. I hope they have more of an in-depth system to deal with the like tanks just being evaporated late game. I hope this isn't the only thing they're bringing in that regard. But this was definitely a large part of the issue, just how much percent pen was available in the game. You know, how you could very easily get to like 50% pen in your build by just building like Totem of Death and Obsidian Shard. That's 50% right there. You know, on gods that can use both, like Anubis and Zeus and stuff like that, you could just get 50% pen in 2 items and still have decent base stats on them, especially Totem of Death. It has CDR, which is really good. And then you're building Rod of Tahuti in every mid build at the moment, so that's another 10%, so you've got 60% pen in your build, and then you might have some extra just thrown in from like a Divine Ruin, which has 5% or whatever, that's 65% pen. Like, it was just way too easy to get access to ridiculous amounts of percent pen in the game, and that was definitely contributing a large amount to how quickly tanks evaporated in the late game. So this will definitely help with that situation, but I hope they have more planned in terms of bringing like some kind of system to make tanks more tanky in the late game. But yeah, overall, really good balance changes in my opinion. There's some bug fixes as well, but you can check those out by checking the patch notes, which I will link down below. We're not going to go over them in too much detail, but there's some bug fixes as always. But yeah, overall, big W patch, man. Big W patch. The Conquest changes are great. The item balance is pretty good. The God balance is pretty good in my opinion. There's definitely some other things they still need to hit in regards to gods and items, but it's good in general. Assault changes sound really good as well, especially with the new feature with the team bench and stuff. Store page being added is really good. Quality of life stuff, like the scoreboard QOL, like big W patch, man. Big W patch. I think all this stuff is really good in my opinion. What do you guys think? Let me know down below, and I'll catch you guys for another one later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.